How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm doing another voiceover over all of the clips that I recorded of reassembling my C5 Corvette. In the past few videos, if you haven't seen them, I did a lot of body and paint work to get the front bumper, the hood, and different spots around the car all painted and looking nice in one color again instead of a multicolored primered project car. If you haven't seen those videos, definitely check them out. It was a cool challenge and project for me to try and tackle this using only spray paint cans. So those are the most recent videos before this one, so check that out if you haven't seen them. But the focus of today's video is to get this car put back together. And it's pretty cool to see because at the end of the video, it's a culmination of months and really years of work of fixing this car and getting it back to a repaired and roadworthy condition. Granted, there's still a lot of things to do with this car. It is a project car, so it probably won't ever be done, but it definitely is at a big milestone where most of the repairs are done and the car is reassembled, painted, and put back together. So the focus that I'm working on right now is reinstalling the headlights. I also restored the headlights. One of the common problems with the C5 Corvettes is that the gear that moves the headlights up and down will strip out because it's a nylon gear that just gets brittle over time. So the common fix for that is a brass gear replacement. So I have a whole other video on restoring those. I restored the headlights completely from every nut and bolt. I resprayed them with a nice textured coating. So now I'm just reinstalling those onto the car. It takes 3 bolts to mount them to the frame and then 3 nuts to mount them to the studs on the inner fender. Now I'm just getting the main wiring harnesses plugged into the control module on the passenger side. And then one of the things I learned while I was doing this was it's actually easier to install the headlights without the front bezel and the top lid or cover installed. It just helps getting the overall bracket assembly and headlight assembly installed without having to worry about the alignment of the lid right off the bat, because that definitely takes a lot of time. If you if you're in the middle of a project and you don't have one of those organizers that I just showed, I definitely highly recommend getting one and using those, because when you're pulling off a bunch of different pieces of hardware and then possibly not reinstalling them until weeks or months later, it helps to have that to organize and label everything so you don't lose track, because everything starts to look like the same after a while and you forget where it goes. So now I got both headlights reinstalled on the car. I also have the foam impact absorber reinstalled and actually 3D printed the mounting plates for that foam impact absorber. So now moving on, one of the things I wanted to replace before I reinstalled the bumper were the lower fog lights or running lights or blinkers. The stock ones were that hazy with the amber look, and it just really makes the car look dated in my opinion. So I went on eBay and just bought some clear smoked housings. These aren't like LEDs or anything special like that. So I'm just getting the headlights or the bulbs plugged back into the housing. Here comes that satisfying peel. So in the long run, I probably will want to put some like LED blinkers or running lights on the car, but that requires a little bit of rewiring, and I just didn't really want to deal with that right now. So here's the look of the bumper with those new smoked blinker lights or lower fog running lights, and I think it totally updates the look of the car and modernizes it a bunch and just makes it look a lot less dated. So I'm getting the headlights actually plugged back into the wiring harness on the car so we can give the headlights the first test to see if they go up and down like they should. It was a very cool moment to see those work in unison together, so I was pretty stoked to see that, because that's such an iconic piece of the C5 Corvette. So I just had to do it a few more times, just because I was so excited. Okay, so this clip takes place a few weeks later than that one, and this is actually I'm doing the voiceover a lot later than when I actually filmed this. This was the night before 4th of July, and I had it set in my mind, and I was motivated to get this car put back together so I could drive it to our family 4th of July barbecue or party. And so everyone could see the car nice and painted and all reassembled. So what I was doing first, which I thought was the right order of operations, was getting the headlight lids aligned and leveled with the hood and fender in the car, but I quickly learned it's actually best to do that after the bumper is installed. So I'll be doing that twice, so that was definitely a very time-consuming part of the build here, or the reassembly. But it's definitely cool seeing the headlight lids back on. Definitely makes it look like more of a completed car, but they will be coming off here in a second. So I'm now moving on to doing the final prep work on the front bumper. One of the last minute modifications I actually decided to do was buy these updated and modified lower fog light shrouds or surrounds that have these extra cutouts in them. And it makes the car just look a lot more updated, in my opinion. And plus the stock ones I had were a little bit faded, and they had some primer overspray on them from when I tried to repair the bumper the first time. So these are only like $170 off Top Flight Automotive. So I just thought I would snag these real quick and install them while I had the chance, because it's a lot easier to do it now. And it totally, as you'll see in a second here, just updates the look of the car, in my opinion, and just freshens it up, adds a little bit more of a feature to the front end instead of a giant blank black spot in the grille, or the front bumper. And on top of updating the look of the front bumper, it may or may not also help slightly with performance. These cars are bottom feeders, so they suck in all of the air to feed the radiator and the AC condenser from underneath. So I just thought maybe a little bit of extra air flowing into the engine bay front area of the car might help to keep that area just a tad bit cooler. So now the next step was moving on to installing these brake ducts that help feed air into the front wheel well area. So these came stock on the car. All C5 Corvettes have these. They don't funnel directly to the calipers or anything. They just stop right there at the front of the wheel well or the inner fender. So it probably helps a little bit with keeping that front brake area cool. So now moving on to installing the front bumper. So for those that don't know C5 Corvettes too well, they basically install in 3 main locations. There's 2 studs on either fender that stick out of the fender where you put a nut on, and then there's 5 or 6 bolts that bolt the top of the bumper to the shroud right where the hood mates in. And then there's a few body screws in the wheel well area, as well as underneath the car by the radiator pickup area. Got the light all working again for the service light. Now I'm trying to finagle my hand and arm up into the deep crevice of the bumper area to get these nuts threaded onto the studs. I had to take a quick moment to use my salt shotgun to nail some moths and flies that had made their way into the garage. I think this was about midnight. I stayed up pretty late working on this that night because I wanted to get this car put back together. So now there's these little covers that basically secure the bumper to the inner fender. They just require I think 4 or 5 body screws. Getting the insulation installed on the underside of the hood. And if you watch my hood painting video, this was the piece I was talking about, that reason why I was saying I wasn't too worried about the paints on the underside of the hood. So now I'm actually taking the headlight lids back off the car, because I realized that you really should do this once you have the front bumper installed as well. This is definitely a challenging piece to get lined up well, because you know, it has to mate and align well with essentially 3 completely different body panels that all have a little bit of adjustment in how they are mounted to the car, maybe minus the fender. But the hood and the bumper are a little bit adjustable on the position, so it's definitely a challenge to try and set the position of the headlight lids so you get not only nice looking body lines, but they don't bind when the headlight moves up and down. So you might be able to see on the kind of the front driver's side where the bumper meets the hood, there's a little bit of a gap, and I had to shim the front bumper a little bit, which I'll talk about at the end of this video. So the voiceover ends now, so I'm going to go into a full-on kind of summary of what I did up to this point. Alrighty everyone, so that was a compilation video of me getting this car back to what I'm calling an assembled running and driving condition. This car is by no means finished. I still have a lot to do with the car in regards to 3D printing, fun mods that I have sitting in boxes over there, a box over there, etc. But this is a condition and a big milestone to where most of the repair and body work and assembly of the car is back and put together now. The repairs are mostly done, the paint's mostly done. I still have some touch-up and finishing work and buffing and things like that to do, but for the most part, all the panels are back on the car. The hood's back on permanently, the headlights are back on permanently, the bumper's on permanently, so it's really cool to see this car come together. I stayed up till 2 in the morning getting this thing situated to try and, you know, get this done before we go on our big summer trip this year. So I'm really excited to have this car back to a running and driving condition so I can take it out on the weekends, enjoy it then, take it to work on a Friday, enjoy it then. And then the plan is as I do more modifications and upgrades, I can incrementally enjoy those upgrades as I still continue driving the car. And the plan is to never really have this car be down and out for more than maybe a weekend or 2 at a time, and that's how I'm kind of planning to do those incremental mods so that I can enjoy and appreciate those upgrades as I make the car better over time. So quick summary of what I did in this video. Got the headlights put back on, got the bumper put back on, including all of the ancillary things that go with the bumper, which are these new smoked turn signal lights, which look way better than the hazy white and amber ones. I got new grill inserts for the lower grills here that allow a little bit more airflow. These cars are bottom feeders after all, so maybe a little bit more airflow up there helps, but nonetheless they looked cool, and the ones that I had on the car looked pretty tired, faded, and they had some overspray on them actually from when I originally repaired the bumper a few years ago. So after that, got the bumper put back on, got the headlights put back on, and I got everything adjusted to about 95%. Still have a little bit of fine tuning to do with some of the panel gaps, including this front lip here with the hood and the bumper. I have to shim the bumper up a little bit. I don't feel bad about that because after watching Tavares's video with his P1, I learned that they use shims and washers to shim to get the body panels right on that car, and that's a much more expensive car than this one. So that's what I'll be doing to kind of get rid of that little bit of gap there in the front. For the most part, got the headlight lids adjusted with the body panel gaps looking good there. Those were the most challenging things to get set right on this because they have to mesh with 3 different panels on this, especially because this was the side that I had to resection that entire inner fender. So I wanted to make sure that the headlight lids, when they moved up and down, didn't bind on anything, but they don't right now, but if they did, they'd kind of self-clearance, and I just use a little bit of touch-up paint. So those turned out really well. I spent a lot of time on that just because how these mount to the headlight mechanism itself and the bracket that allows for the adjustment, it's hard to get them set right, pull the lid off, set the bracket and lock that in place, and then put it back on without it moving. So that took quite a bit of time, and that's what kind of drawed this out late into the night last night. Also got to get a little bit of a, I got to get a new emblem there because that one's not going back on, so just have that one temporarily placed. That's the original one from the car. So for the most part, all the body panels are looking pretty good. From C5 Corvettes that I've seen that are in varying condition from pristine to well used, the body panels vary from awesome to poor on all different kinds of C5s. I say for the most part I got it to about right in the middle. You know, the body panel with the hood kind of tapers a little bit and gets a little bigger towards the door, and overall for the most part they look pretty dang good and as close to a lot of other C5s that I've seen on the road as well. It's really cool seeing this car finally put back together with all the body panels back on the car. There's no body panels off the car. Basically all the parts are back on the car now, and it's really exciting to see that, especially considering the state that I bought this car in. For those that don't know, I bought this car in November 2018 from IAAI, which is another version of Copart, sight unseen from Montana, and it had been in a little bit of a front end accident, so this bumper was pretty heavily damaged. The hood was toast, so I had to buy a new hood. This fender was damaged. That headlight was completely toast, so I had to buy a whole new one there. The front impact bar was pushed in, so I had to section that and put a new one in, and the subframe was cracked from either the accident or the Copart forklift, so I had to replace that. So seeing this car back into an assembled, you know, like finished looking car for the most part is really cool to see. It's been a long time coming. It's 2023 now, but I've in that time I finished grad school, changed jobs twice, you know, bought a house, moved, a pandemic hit, so there's been a lot going on in life, and life is about to get a lot more busier. So I'm just happy to get to this condition with the car and see it where it is now. It's very rewarding to see this when I put so much time and effort into putting this car back to a, you know, nice looking state. A lot of people said, well, you should just buy a new bumper, or you should just buy an already paint match hood, or blah blah blah. I'm like, yes, I could have done that. It probably would have been a few hundred, maybe $1,000 more to buy an already painted hood and bumper that was in relatively good condition, but there's a lot that comes with that. Shipping, possibly getting damaged in shipping, etc., etc. So I really wanted to challenge myself and push myself with this car. That's the whole point of this car. I mean, heck, tearing into this car to replace the subframe was one of the most ambitious jobs that I'd ever done on a car, and I did it, and it's done now. All the body and paint work was definitely ambitious, trying to do it with rattle cans only, and having no prior body and paint work experience. This is all from research and learning that I've done from reading and watching other YouTube videos, and so I've learned a lot through this whole process, and I'm really excited to see it start to all come together. It's not by any means finished. Like I said, I still have to do some touch-up work on the paint, get some of the orange peel out, blend and match some of the areas that didn't come out perfect at first, but for the most part the paint looks really great. I mean, heck, we have the front bumper, which is from the spray paint cans, the hood, which is from the spray paint cans, the passenger side headlight lid is from the spray paint cans, this headlight lid is from a completely different parts car off eBay, this fender is transitioned from spray paint to your original paint, and then there's other touch-up points around the car. So overall, the paint for what this car is and what my goals and expectations were definitely exceed that. I'm so happy to see that and see all that hard work kind of pay off now. So now today I'll be taking this car out for the first time, enjoying it, and now what I plan to also do with this car is do some more driving videos, take it out on the back roads, truly enjoy it and have fun with it so I can make more content for you guys. Alrighty everyone, so thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching all this content with the Corvette build and following along on my journey of repairing, restoring, modifying, upgrading this thing, making it to the autocross weekend canyon carver that I want this car to be. As always, if you guys have any comments or questions about the build, please feel free to leave your questions below and I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my abilities. I'll be making another special video focusing on what body repair materials I used to fix this car, because it was kind of vague and this car is made from some unique materials. So I want to help anybody else out that's doing body work on this car from the research that I've already done. But I'm excited to continue sharing this build with you guys. A lot more fun things are going to happen with this car in regards to modifications and now actually driving, enjoying the car, taking it out on some back roads and having fun with it. So thank you guys again. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe for more content to come. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.